Today I will tell you a story. The story is titled, Quirky and the Way He Softened the Room. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you appreciate me. You can skip this if you don't and oppose. Like this video. Thank you very much. The story begins as follows. Before Quirky, the room was just a room. It had walls painted in a safe, forgettable color. A desk that was always a little too cluttered. A chair that creaked when you leaned back, reminding you of how many hours you had already spent sitting there. The window let in light, but only enough to show the dust floating in the air, never enough to make the space feel alive. Most days, the room carried a quiet heaviness. Not sadness exactly. More like a constant tension, the kind that builds up when life moves too fast and you never quite catch up. Deadlines hummed in the background. Notifications blinked on screens. Thoughts piled up in the corners like laundry you kept meaning to fold. Then there was Quirky. He didn't burst into the room with dramatic energy. He didn't announce himself as something special. Quirky simply wandered in, nails clicking softly against the floor, tail moving at a slow, uncertain pace. He sniffed the air as if trying to understand the mood of the space. Then he chose a spot, usually near my feet, sometimes half under the desk, and lay down with a sigh that sounded almost human. That sigh was the first change. It was small, barely noticeable, but it shifted something. The room didn't feel as tight anymore. The air seemed to loosen, as if it had been holding its breath and finally let go. Quirky had a way of being present without demanding attention. He didn't ask for constant petting. He didn't whine for affection. He was simply there, breathing softly, occasionally stretching, sometimes rolling onto his back in a position that looked wildly uncomfortable but somehow worked for him. As I worked, I became aware of him in quiet ways. The warmth of his body near my ankles. The gentle rise and fall of his chest. The way his ears twitched when a sound came from outside, even though he didn't bother getting up. The room started to feel different, not brighter, not cleaner, but calmer. Less sharp, less demanding. It was as if Quirky absorbed the edges of the day, smoothing them down just by existing. And slowly, without realizing it, I began to match his rhythm. Quirky didn't fix anything in my life. The emails were still there. The worries didn't disappear. The noise of the world didn't magically quiet down. But something about Quirky changed how all of it felt. When I stressed, he noticed, not in a dramatic way, but with subtle shifts. He would lift his head and look at me for a moment, eyes soft and curious, as if asking, "Are you okay?" Then he'd place his chin back on the floor, trusting that things would sort themselves out. That trust was contagious. Sometimes, when I sighed too deeply, Quirky would stand up and stretch slowly, the kind of stretch that made his whole body curve. Then he'd walk over and press his side against my leg, not asking for anything, just reminding me that I wasn't alone in the room. Other times, he would choose the most inconvenient place to nap, right behind my chair, directly in my walking path. And instead of being annoyed, I'd laugh quietly and step around him. The act of slowing down, of paying attention to where I placed my feet, softened me in ways I didn't expect. The room began to change its habits. Mornings felt less rushed because Quirky greeted them slowly. He didn't jump out of bed ready to conquer the day. He stretched, yawned, blinked at the light, and took his time standing up. Watching him made it feel okay to start gently. Afternoons grew warmer, not in temperature, but in feeling. When the day peaked with noise and pressure, Quirky remained steady. He slept through storms, trucks passing by, and my moments of frustration. His calm wasn't lazy, it was confident. Evenings were Quirky's specialty. As the lights softened and shadows stretched across the walls, Quirky seemed to glow in his own quiet way. He'd move closer, curl up nearby, and sigh again. That same sigh that said, "You've done enough for today." The room, once filled with tension, now carried a sense of permission. Permission to pause. Permission to breathe. Permission to exist without constantly producing something. Quirky never tried to change me. He didn't teach lessons with words or actions meant to impress. He simply lived fully in the moment, and in doing so, invited the room, and me, to do the same. Over time, I realized something important. Quirky didn't just soften the room. He became its heart. The room no longer felt like a place where tasks happened. It became a shared space, a small world where two beings coexisted, each influencing the other in quiet, meaningful ways. When friends visited, they noticed it too. They spoke more softly. They sat longer. They smiled when Corky wandered over and rested his head on their feet, trusting them instantly. Conversations slowed. Laughter came easier. Corky taught the room how to hold emotions without reacting to them. Bad days were allowed. Good days were enjoyed without rushing past them. Nothing needed to be perfect to be enough. There were moments when I caught myself adjusting my behavior because of him, turning the music down so it wouldn't disturb his sleep, taking breaks when I noticed he needed to go outside, choosing gentler words when I spoke, even on the phone, because the room had learned softness and I didn't want to break it. And Corky gave something back in return, something profound. He offered loyalty without conditions, presence without judgment, love without expectations. His world was simple, but not shallow. It was rooted in connection, trust, and a deep understanding that being together mattered more than doing anything extraordinary. In that room, Corky wasn't just a dog. He was a reminder that peace doesn't always come from fixing things. Sometimes it comes from sharing space with someone who knows how to be calm, someone who listens without words, someone who makes a room feel like home. Corky's story is not just about a dog and a room. It's about how presence can quietly transform our lives. In today's fast-paced world, we often believe that improvement comes from constant effort, endless productivity, and fixing every problem immediately. Corky shows us another way. He teaches us that simply being can be enough. That calmness is not weakness, but strength. By staying present and grounded, Corky changes the emotional climate of the room without trying to control it. This is a powerful lesson for human life today, where stress often spreads faster than peace. From Corky, we learn to slow down and notice small things: a breath, a moment of silence, the comfort of shared space. We learn to treat those around us, human or animal, with patience and gentleness. Animals don't demand perfection. They respond to sincerity and care. When we offer that, we receive something deeply healing in return. To apply this in daily life, allow yourself moments of stillness. Create spaces where calm is welcomed. Respect the quiet companionship of animals and people alike. In doing so, we don't just improve our own well-being. We build a kinder, more balanced relationship between humans and the living beings who share our world.